Apostolic Communities of Laity in Formation. Our rule of life number 5. Our specific mission is the preservation of the faith in those areas and among those people who are spiritually neglected and abandoned, especially the poor. Our chief effort is to develop a missionary spirit in the laity, with the goal that every Catholic be an apostle. Apostolic Communities of Laity in Formation. The method of CAP, Comunidades Apostolicas de Laicos en Formación, with its 4 areas of implementation, has deep roots in the Church and the missionary cenacle. The areas are Kerygma, Koinonia, Didache, Diaconia. This method was established in the primitive Church, as revealed in the Acts of the Apostles. Kerygma is New Testament Greek for the proclamation or core gospel message. It is the core gospel message proclaimed in the encounter with Christ. In the Acts of the Apostles, Peter addressed the crowd, "My brothers, God raised this Jesus. Of this we are all witnesses." Koinonia, Greek New Testament for community and fellowship. It is the faith community. In the Acts of the Apostles chapter 2 verses 42, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and the fellowship, koinonia, to the breaking of the bread and prayer. Didache, Greek New Testament for teaching or instruction. It is the training in the way of Christ. Once again, Acts of the Apostles chapter 2, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, the Didache, and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread, and to prayer. Diaconia, Greek New Testament for to serve, serving Christ. The Acts of the Apostles chapter 1, then they prayed, "Lord, you know everyone's heart. Show us which of these 2 you have chosen to take over this apostolic ministry, this apostolic diaconia, which Judas left to go where he belongs." In Acts of the Apostles chapter 6, 7 men were chosen to serve the poor, the Greek-speaking believers. They were called deacons, servants. This 4-stage method was developed in the first centuries of the early Church to promote a great force of evangelization. It was the basis of the formation of adults into the Catholic faith. Later, Vatican II would renew this and also help to form the rite of Christian initiation of adults. The 4-stage method was highly promoted as a method of evangelization in the CELA, Consejo Episcopal Latinoamericano, the documents of Aparecida in 2007. Pope Francis's apostolic exhortation, "The Joy of the Gospel," is infused with the evangelization method emphasized in the Salem document. Pope Francis calls for a re-evangelization that is centered on a personal encounter with Christ. In The Joy of the Gospel, Pope Francis says, "We have rediscovered the fundamental role of the first and principal announcement, or the kerygma, which needs to be the center of all evangelizing activity and all efforts at church renewal. The kerygma is Trinitarian. The fire of the Spirit is given in the form of tongues and leads us to believe in Jesus Christ, who by his death and resurrection reveals and communicates to us the Father's infinite mercy." Joy of the Gospel 164. Father Thomas Augustine Judge used a similar method to CAF. Father Judge's vision was that every Catholic would be an apostle. Father Judge and Kerygma. Father Judge was a member of the Vincentian Mission Band. He moved from parish to parish to preach missions. The missions were comprised of a week of evenings preaching so as to awaken faith in Catholics. Father Judge was quite effective as his words and zeal touched the hearts of the faithful. Many would approach him in the confessional. Their response was personal. This can be likened to the Kerygma. Father Judge and Koinonia. Father initiated small faith communities that he named cenacles. In cenacles, a small group would gather in prayer and formation. This is Koinonia. Father Judge and Didache. Father was constantly meeting with the cenacles, giving them conferences. When he could not meet, he wrote letters to them to deepen their formation. Father's writings are extensive. Like St. Paul, he used similar methods to evangelize communities. This is Didache. Father Judge in Diaconia. Father Judge called the cenacle members to be missionary disciples in the providence of their everyday lives, which included direct service to their families, schools, workplaces, neighborhoods, and parishes. Others he called to go evangelize in the wider church, including to leave their homes in order to promote missionary work in other states and other countries. Sacred Heart Mission, Lorain, Ohio, in the 1950s. Father Antonio Hernandez, St., introduced Cursillo. He, with other STs, developed small faith communities that built up the mission in Lorain. Búsqueda in Mexico. The model of CAP begins in Mexico in 1981. Father Eugene Mueller, St., initiated Búsqueda encounters in Michoacán. The model established a retreat ministry with a retreat center involving local parishes. The model spread to our missions in Tamazcalapa and Chimalhuacán in Mexico. The model has been a very effective instrument of evangelization and missionary formation. Coachella, California. The mission in Coachella was intentionally chosen to implement the CAF model and develop resources to spread it to other missions. The Valley Missionary Program in Coachella is similar to the Búsqueda and Cursillo models, with encounters, retreat centers, and participating parishes. However, the Valley Missionary Program has developed the much-needed plan for continual formation through its workshops and small faith communities. At present, the Valley Missionary Program has over 145 small faith communities that meet weekly. The CAF model has been developing to guide us in concrete steps in forming a missionary spirit in the laity. For the cenacle, the model has been developing since the early days of the missionary cenacle family. The past two general cenacles have promoted its implementation. However, one size does not fit all. 4 stages of CAF are guidelines to be adapted to the cultures in situations of our missions. What has been developing in Coachella, in a Mexican culture, cannot simply be transplanted to Costa Rica, Canóvanas, or Camden. However, the four areas of Kerygma, Koinonia, Didache, and Diaconia, the CAF method, serve as a time-tested instrument to help us in the formation of lay missionary disciples.